Hi everyone, and welcome to The Sleepy Scientist. I'm really happy you're here. Tonight, we're going to go on a calm and quiet trip to learn something amazing. So get comfy, take a deep breath, and let's enjoy this peaceful science story together. Before we start, tell me in the comments, where are you watching from and what time is it for you right now? If you like relaxing science videos, don't forget to tap the like button. Now let's begin.
Beneath the heat of the sun, far below the hum of the grassland, something quiet is always unfolding. There is no hammering, no shouting, no blueprint. Yet the builders are at work, small, pale architects who never stop. Termites with their soft bodies and blind eyes are among the most precise constructors in nature. They do not rush, nor do they rest. Instead, they carry grains of sand and soil, mixing them with saliva into perfect bricks. And with these bricks, they build homes that stand for decades, sometimes centuries. From the outside, their mounds look like sleeping hills, still, silent, motionless. But inside, the story is different. Step into the mound and the world changes. The air is cooler. Moisture clings to the walls. There are chambers and passageways, spirals and shafts, vents that pull in air and exhale it again. There is a steady pulse like the breath of a sleeping forest. Here in the dark, termites have mastered something extraordinary, the art of stillness as survival. Their towers are shaped by physics, not by accident but by wisdom woven into instinct. Columns angle just so to catch the wind. Tunnels wind in careful curves to guide airflow. It is not chaos but choreography. Long before humans spoke of thermodynamics or fluid mechanics, termites had already solved them. Their homes are living laboratories, regulating temperature, balancing gases, sheltering thousands. And yet there are no leaders, no drawings, no orders barked down corridors. The plan lives in the group, carried by each tiny worker, passed through touches and chemical whispers. Each movement is small, but together they form something monumental. Imagine building in darkness. No sight, no sound, only vibration, scent, and the feel of damp earth. Yet through these senses they map the shape of air. They read where heat lingers and where it flows, and they respond. A single grain moved here, a wall thickened there. Day by day, molecule by molecule, the architecture adapts. This is not engineering by force, it is design by listening. Let's drift deeper now. Beneath the central spire of a termite mound, there is often a great shaft, rising from the heart of the colony like the throat of an ancient temple. Warm air, generated by the metabolic heat of the colony, rises through it. Cooler air, drawn in through lower vents, swirls in to take its place. The termites do not know this in numbers. They do not name it convection, but they feel it and they build accordingly. The tunnels are curved, not straight, because air moves more smoothly that way. Dead ends are rare. Chambers are nestled like beads on a string, each serving a purpose. Nurseries, gardens for fungus, rest chambers, royal quarters. The queen, fat with eggs, lies at the center, her heartbeat the rhythm of the mound. Around her, workers tend, soldiers guard, and through the corridors, messages travel, not as words but as scent and softness. The stillness of a termite mound is an illusion. It is not a tomb but a breathing being, every grain in place, every turn intentional, but nothing is rigid. The mound changes with the wind, with the seasons, with the colony's needs. If a wall collapses, it is rebuilt. If heat rises too high, new vents are added. This is not a monument to permanence. It is a temple to adaptation. And yet for all this activity, the outside remains quiet. The mound rises gently from the soil, blending into the landscape. It asks for no attention. It gives no clue to the bustling life within. Birds land atop it. Rain rolls off it. Wind passes by. But within, a civilization moves silently, one that understands without knowing the dance of gases, the structure of soil, the power of passive design. You can almost feel it now, the slow rhythm of work in the dark, the soft tap of legs on earth, the warm breath rising through narrow shafts, the whisper of dirt being shaped not by command but by cooperation. These are not machines. They are not chaotic. They are calm. And through that calm, they build the impossible. Let's drift deeper into the warm stillness that shapes these earthen halls. Inside the termite mound, the air feels old but never stale. It moves quietly and constantly, guided by the soft curves of tunnels no wider than a child's finger. This is where science and instinct become one. The termites do not calculate, but they know. They do not measure, but they respond. Their bodies are the tools. Their senses are enough. In this world of soil and breath, balance is not an achievement, it is a way of being. As you move through the inner rings of the colony, you'll notice how the walls are never quite smooth, but always intentional. Their texture helps moisture cling, cooling the air as it travels. Termites grow their food here, gardens of fungus that live in symbiosis with the colony. The fungus breaks down wood and plant material brought in by foragers. In return, it nourishes the termites. This hidden farming has continued for millions of years, older than human agriculture, older even than flowering plants. But what makes this system so extraordinary isn't just survival, it is stability. These mounds do not rely on machines. They do not use fuel or wires. Their ventilation is passive, governed by the shape of chambers and the behavior of heat. Warm air rises, cool air falls. Openings in the mound adjust as needed. Termites sense humidity changes and move to patch or expand, not with panic but with precision. They are gentle stewards of a miniature climate, crafting a bubble where life can flourish, no matter the chaos outside. Imagine the elegance. No motors, no blueprints, yet internal temperatures remain steady even as the savanna bakes under a relentless sun. This is not just biology. It is architecture. It is physics. It is fluid dynamics, thermoregulation, collective intelligence, all built into the body of a creature smaller than a grain of rice. And it works. Not through control, but through flow. Not through speed, but through stillness. Termites feel the world through their legs, through their antennae. Vibrations speak to them. A sudden tremble may mean a predator or a crack in a wall. A shift in air pressure could signal a change in weather. They respond not with alarm, but with rhythm. Thousands of them moving as one, carrying specks of mud and bits of grass, sealing and shaping, always maintaining the breath of the mound. In some species, soldiers drum their heads on the tunnel walls when danger nears. The sound echoes through the passages like a soft alarm bell. Workers hear it and retreat, gathering to protect the queen or seal vulnerable chambers. These actions are not taught, not learned, but inherited. They come from the deep memory of the species, a knowledge etched in the quiet language of DNA. Their wisdom is ancient, born from survival, shaped by time. Step into this slow world and listen. Not with ears, but with attention. Listen to the silence that is full of meaning. The mound is alive and it listens too. It listens to wind, to sun, to the scent of roots growing nearby. Its outer walls harden in drought, soften in rain. Its tunnels stretch in one season and shrink in another. It is not rigid. It is responsive. Scientists who study termite mounds now understand what ancient peoples saw but could not explain. These are not mere dirt piles. They are machines made of earth. They regulate air, moisture, and heat without a single moving part. Engineers mimic these structures in modern buildings, seeking passive cooling systems that save energy. Biomimicry, they call it. But termites have been practicing it long before we gave it a name. Their method is not to conquer nature, but to cooperate with it. The sun bakes the surface, but its heat is invited in, not blocked. The breeze is not resisted, it is guided. Water is not wasted, it is recycled. The mound breathes with the land like a lung pressed gently to the skin of the earth. Its softness is its strength. And perhaps in this delicate dance we see more than termites. We see a way of being that doesn't rush, that doesn't demand, that builds slowly with patience, with balance. In a world that spins ever faster, the termite mound remains still, not in silence but in harmony. Beneath our feet, these tiny builders teach us something profound, that true strength may come not from noise, but from knowing when to listen, when to pause, and when to simply let the air pass through. Now imagine standing at the edge of a termite mound at dusk. The air is cooling, the sun slipping behind distant trees. From the outside, nothing stirs. The mound remains still like a sculpture left by time, but you know better now. You know that within its walls, life is moving not in haste, not in fear, but in rhythm. It is the rhythm of breath, of earth, of cooperation without words. And in that rhythm lies a quiet truth: greatness can be born from stillness. Deep inside the mound, the queen rests in her chamber. She is vast, larger than any worker, her body heavy with life. She lays egg after egg, hundreds each day. Around her, caretakers move gently, feeding her, cleaning her, tending to her needs without expectation. This care is not duty, it is connection. Each termite feels the weight of the colony's survival, not as pressure but as purpose. They do not compete. They collaborate. They do not claim space. They shape it together. Their world is dark, yet they navigate it with certainty. Each wall they touch tells a story. Each curve remembers a purpose. The colony is not just a home, it is a memory in motion. If the queen dies, if the mound cracks, they rebuild, not out of panic but with presence. There is no need for orders, no single mind in control. The wisdom is shared, distributed, felt. It moves through the scent trails, through the trembling soil, through the air as it passes between chambers. It is a kind of quiet intelligence, deeper than thought. Outside, night arrives. Stars bloom across the sky, the grasses hush. Still, the mound persists cool inside, breathing slow. The temperature shifts, but the nest adjusts. The wind picks up, and the air channels within guide it carefully through. No one tells the termites what to do. They simply respond, piece by piece, grain by grain, shaping the silence to suit their needs. Engineers now study these mounds in hopes of building structures that breathe, homes that cool without fans, buildings that adapt without sensors. What termites do with instinct, we strive to do with equations. But even with all our tools, there is something elusive in their work. It is not just design, it is trust. Trust in the group, trust in the pattern, trust that stillness, not speed, can be the most powerful force. These mounds last for decades. They survive floods, fires, and storms. And when they fall, others rise. The soil is reclaimed. The cycle begins again. Nothing is wasted. Every tunnel leads to another. Every breath serves a purpose. It is a closed loop of creation and renewal, as delicate as it is enduring. And perhaps this is where the deepest lesson lies. In a world that often confuses motion with progress, termites remind us that motion without meaning leads nowhere. That a structure need not tower to be wise. That presence can be more powerful than control. They do not dominate the land, they belong to it. Their mounds are not impositions. They are extensions of the earth, shaped with patience and carried forward by millions of tiny feet, working in gentle unison. So as you step back from the mound, let your mind linger on what lies beneath. Not just tunnels and chambers, but a way of living. A system that breathes, listens, and balances. A system that trusts the power of stillness to shape survival. Let this image rest with you. The quiet mound rising from the ground, holding inside it a lesson older than language. The lesson that true architecture is not about building high, but building deep, with awareness, with care, and above all, with calm. And if you listen closely, you might still hear it, the sound of soil being shaped in the dark. A rhythm not meant to dazzle, but to endure. A soft hum of purpose, echoing through earth and time. Beneath our feet, where roots curl and stones sleep, there are tunnels that stretch like forgotten thoughts, hidden, winding, breathing. These aren't tunnels dug by machines or men, but by time and instinct, carved out by creatures who never see the sky. Termites, ants, worms, and 1,000 other quiet diggers spend their lives beneath the surface, weaving passageways through soil not just for travel, but for life. These tunnels are not random. They are memory in motion, shaped by generations, informed by air, designed by the softest sense of balance. Every tunnel is a breath. It lets the earth inhale and exhale. It guides moisture through clay and sand. It shelters warmth, collects coolness, and holds the stories of seasons long past. In places where rain has not fallen for weeks, the air in the soil still remembers water. In the coldest nights, the tunnels cradle warmth gathered from the day. This is the Earth's hidden lung system, a silent architecture of flow and regulation. Termites are among the great architects of this underground world. Their mounds above ground may catch our eye, but it is what lies below that tells the richer tale. A single colony can extend for dozens of meters in every direction, threading through the dirt with purpose. Some tunnels lead to food, others to air, still others to silence. The earth itself becomes a map, its texture and moisture guiding where they dig, where they rest, where they grow. What is most remarkable is how these passageways hold memory. Not conscious memory, not thought, but a kind of environmental recall. The soil once shaped holds its shape. It remembers the path of air, the rhythm of footsteps, the gentle press of life. Even if the termites vanish, the tunnels persist, sometimes for years. And in that persistence, they continue to shape the world, directing how water seeps after rain, how roots twist as they grow, how heat rises from the ground on cool mornings. Some tunnels are ancient. In deserts, fossilized burrows over 1,000 years old have been found, still visible in the hard-packed earth. These ghost tunnels, long abandoned, still guide the wind, still hold echoes of creatures now dust, still participate in the breathing of the planet. They are not ruins. They are veins that once carried life and still help the land remember how to live. Close your eyes and picture them, long, quiet corridors under fields and forests. No lights, no sounds, just the occasional shimmer of air moving through like a sigh. These are the microclimates of the underground, tiny pockets of warmth or cool, damp or dry, each one shaped by the creatures that pass through, each one reacting to the rhythms above, sunlight, rainfall, the weight of a passing herd. And in return, these tunnels affect what grows, where water pools, how roots reach, and how even the wind above feels on the skin. It is easy to forget that air moves underground, that temperature shifts down there, that stillness is never truly still. But termites do not forget. They live in a world where sensing airflow is as important as sensing danger, where the direction of a breeze might determine the health of an entire nest, where the tunnel that bends just so could be the difference between survival and collapse. These creatures are not guessing, they are responding. When carbon dioxide builds up, they change the structure. When water threatens to flood, they seal the entrances. When heat intensifies, they build towers, not to escape it, but to guide it away. All of this happens without leaders, without plans, yet with an astonishing level of precision. It is a kind of collective intelligence, not conscious but deeply aware. An awareness shaped by millions of years of quiet, underground life. And above ground, we rarely notice. We walk across fields and forests, never sensing the vast web of life beneath. But every step we take may pass over a tunnel holding still air or carrying the memory of last week's rain. We build cities on top of these networks. We plant trees whose roots will, unknowingly, follow the paths termites first traced. We shape the land, unaware that it has already been shaped, that it remembers more than we ever will. So let us pause here at the entrance of a tunnel and simply breathe. The air that flows from it is not empty. It carries stories of creatures moving, of soil shifting, of life persisting in the silence below. It carries the memory of time. Let's wander further into the dark veins of the earth, where time seems slower and the air tastes of memory. Down here in the quiet belly of the world, the soil hums with old vibrations. Each tunnel holds the imprint of those who passed before. It remembers the footsteps, the temperature shifts, the press of bodies moving grain by grain. These are not simply pathways, they are layered histories, sculpted in silence. The air underground is not the same as the air above. It is heavier, laced with carbon and warmth, filtered through soil and root. It changes with the weather, but not instantly. There is a delay, a hesitation. When the sun scorches the surface, the heat takes hours to seep down. When rain falls, it takes days to reach these chambers. This slowness becomes a kind of protection. The creatures that live here are not rushed. They live by the slower beat of the earth. In these corridors, the physics of air becomes the architecture of survival. Warm air rises, cool air sinks, basic principles we learn in classrooms. But for termites, these are not lessons. They are instincts. They build their tunnels to guide these currents, tilting shafts just slightly to let air rise naturally through vertical spires. They widen passages where airflow must slow. They narrow others where air should speed. The mound becomes a lung, inhaling and exhaling in rhythm with the colony's needs. But these tunnels do more than move air. They manage moisture, conserve energy, and regulate life itself. In some regions, termite tunnels reach water tables meters below the surface, drawing moisture up through capillary action. This water does not flood their nests. It's captured slowly, absorbed into the walls, shared with the fungus they cultivate. Their gardens thrive not in sunlight but in perfect, damp darkness, fed by decaying wood and tenderly managed humidity. It's a farm without sky, a harvest of shadows. And still the tunnels grow. As the colony expands, new shafts are dug, old ones repurposed. If a tunnel collapses, they don't abandon it. They read the signals, the shift in airflow, the feel of falling earth, and they adjust. They patch, they reroute, they reinforce. Each collapse becomes a lesson etched into soil. Each repair makes the mound wiser. This is not static construction. It is living design, responsive and flexible. Some scientists have placed sensors in termite mounds to study airflow, temperature, and humidity. What they found is astonishing. The conditions inside remain remarkably stable, even as the environment outside swings wildly. The mound buffers its inhabitants against extremes, and it does so without a thermostat, without wires, without plans. All it takes is structure and time, curves and chambers, openings and closures, a breath in, a breath out. Nature engineered by touch. And yet termites are not alone in this subterranean wisdom. Ants build tunnels too, intricate systems with traffic lanes and ventilation shafts. Earthworms dig as they feed, aerating soil, inviting oxygen into deep layers where roots might someday reach. Even rodents carve burrows with chambers for sleeping, for storing food, for hiding from predators. All of them, in their own way, shape the microclimates below us. These underground climates matter. They affect what grows above. A tree planted near an abandoned termite mound may thrive more quickly. Its roots find easy paths, its water stays longer. The soil holds more air. Farmers in some cultures have long known this, even if they couldn't explain it. They plant near old mounds, knowing something unseen but reliable lingers in the earth. That something is the legacy of tunnels, the architecture of breath and stillness, laid down by those who tunneled in silence. Now imagine you could shrink small enough to walk these tunnels. The walls would be close, curved like ribs. The air would shift as you moved, warm near the floor, cooler near the vents. You'd hear no footsteps but perhaps feel vibrations, faint drumming from distant workers, a soft scraping of mandibles shaping clay. It would not feel dead. It would feel like being inside a living thing. And in a sense you would be. The mound is not just a structure. It is an extension of the colony, a shared skin that breathes and adapts. Each tunnel is a nerve, each chamber a heart. Information flows not through wires but through scent, touch, and temperature. It is an intelligence spread thin, not concentrated but effective. One that doesn't need to think to know, that doesn't need to speak to act. These tunnels are not empty. They are filled with meaning. They are libraries of environmental memory, written not in ink but in air and dust. They teach us that design does not always require drawing. That order can emerge without hierarchy. That stability can be soft. That engineering can begin with a single grain of soil carried gently in the dark. Now let us settle into the deepest parts of the tunnels, where time loses shape and sound dissolves into silence. Down here the air barely moves, and yet everything is moving. The walls are breathing ever so gently. The tunnels expand and contract with temperature, with moisture, with the weight of life above. Even in stillness the system remains alive, dynamic in ways we cannot see, responsive in ways we barely understand. This is not just the story of insects. It is the quiet science of survival etched beneath our feet. The microclimate here is not a coincidence. It is the result of countless small decisions, each grain of soil placed with care, each chamber positioned with purpose. The coolness you feel is the work of passive thermoregulation. The dryness in one chamber, the dampness in another, is managed not by tools but by geometry. Termites do not know the words for convection or evaporation, but they build as though they do. Their bodies are instruments tuned to the breath of the earth, and every tunnel they carve is a note in the song of survival. Above, storms come and go. The sky changes, temperatures rise and fall, but inside the tunnel holds its form. The air slows, settles, and stabilizes. Seeds fall into abandoned shafts and begin to grow. Bacteria flourish in the sheltered soil. Microorganisms use the moisture, the minerals, the trace gases filtered by the maze of air. Insects come and go, but the structure remains. It becomes part of the land's memory, a template for life to follow. Some tunnels are sealed forever, becoming fossilized airways that preserve the shape of breath in hardened clay. Others reopen in new seasons, adapted by new creatures. The old design is not discarded but inherited, changed slowly, softly over generations. It is a form of continuity, not through lineage but through place. Just as rivers carve valleys and wind sculpts stone, termites and their cousins have shaped the earth not with force but with rhythm. And still, we rarely notice. We see the trees, the mountains, the rivers, but not the quiet architects who make the land breathable. We forget that ecosystems begin below, that the health of a forest may start with a tunnel, that the shape of a leaf might depend on the flow of air that first moved through a hollow in the ground. These links are delicate, invisible, but they are real. The earth does not divide itself between above and below. It works as one breathing body. What would happen if we listened more closely to these hidden engineers? If we studied their methods not only with microscopes but with humility? They teach us that change can be slow and effective. That design can emerge from response, not control. That a network with no center can still be wise. Their tunnels are not monuments, they are living models of balance. Even in our cities, traces of this wisdom remain. The airflow beneath old buildings, the soil beneath streets, the roots that follow ancient burrows, all are guided by the same principles. We try to manage climate with machines, but here are creatures who do it with nothing but their bodies and the land. They have no blueprints, no code, yet their systems endure longer than many of ours. So if you find yourself walking through dry grass or along a forest trail, pause for a moment. Look down. The ground beneath you may hold more than dirt. It may hold the outlines of breath, the fingerprints of generations, the architecture of stillness. It may hold the memory of air that passed long before you arrived, and it may still be breathing even now. In the end, the tunnels beneath time are not just passages for insects. They are stories. Stories written in curves and chambers, in heat and humidity, in silence and adaptation. Stories that do not end when the creatures leave but continue, slowly changing, guiding, and supporting life in new ways. They remind us that the earth is not just what we see, it is also what we don't. And often, what we don't see is what holds everything together. Let that thought rest with you as we leave this place. The tunnels remain even as we rise back to the surface. They are still there, holding air, shaping roots, breathing slowly in the quiet dark. They ask for nothing. They expect no praise, but without them the world above would lose its balance. Stillness, it turns out, is not absence. It is presence, deeply rooted and profoundly alive. Stillness in most of our lives is a pause, an absence of motion, a lull in sound. We imagine it as a quiet room, a resting body, a world taking a breath. But inside a termite nest, stillness is not empty. It is not a lack of energy, but a concentration of it, a balance so perfect that it appears unmoving. Beneath the sun-baked skin of a mound, deep in its winding tunnels and spacious chambers, lies a physics so precise, so deeply tuned to its environment, that motion becomes unnecessary. Here, in the humblest of architectures, the laws of nature perform their quiet ballet. From the outside, the nest stands as a monument of soil and spit, hardened by time and sun. To the untrained eye, it looks dead, just a hardened hill against the landscape. But step inside if you could shrink down small enough, and the air would shift gently around you, not stirred by machines, but by shape. The very walls of the nest know how to move air. They guide heat away, invite coolness in, and smooth out the spikes of temperature that swing wildly between day and night. Inside, the colony breathes, not with lungs but with architecture. The physics of this stillness begins with heat. As the termites live, work, and grow, they generate warmth. Left unregulated, this would overheat their environment, but the mound is no prison. It is a system of exchange. Vents open high on the spire, catching breezes. Shafts reach down into cooler earth where the temperature barely changes. These vertical channels create convection loops, warm air rises and escapes, pulling in cooler air from below. No fans, no electricity. Just geometry, gravity, and heat. Then comes moisture. The colony must remain humid, not drenched, not dry. The walls of the nest are porous. Tiny gaps between particles allow water vapor to pass but not escape entirely. It is an invisible sieve. Moisture evaporates from the fungus gardens, spreads through chambers, and condenses gently along cooler walls to be used again. Nothing is wasted. The nest doesn't chase equilibrium, it dances with it. Sound, too, behaves differently in these chambers. The rounded tunnels and earthen walls soften echoes. The vibrations of movement don't bounce, they flow. A soldier tapping its head to signal danger sends a ripple that can travel across rooms, felt through the legs of the colony. This is not noise, it's communication without words, a physics of presence. The nest's stability comes not from rigidity but from adaptation. If too much air escapes, termites narrow the passage. If a tunnel becomes too warm, they widen it to cool it faster. Their responses are local, but the effects are global. One small change reshapes airflow for the entire mound. This feedback system isn't managed by a central brain. It is distributed, reactive, elegant. The stillness inside the nest is not because nothing moves. It is because everything knows how to move only when needed. Scientists have measured these forces with instruments, mapping temperature gradients, modeling airflow, watching how carbon dioxide gathers and then vanishes. The data reveals something profound. The nest maintains an internal climate more stable than many human homes, and it does so passively, entirely through physical principles embedded in the mound's shape. Termites are not guessing. They are living with the grain of the universe. But what does this stillness feel like? If you were there inside the nest, surrounded by its warm, dim corridors, it would not feel lifeless. You would feel the hush of gentle air against your skin. You might smell the sweet rot of fungus, the earthy damp of soil. You would feel vibrations through your feet, small, regular, the pulse of work and purpose. It would be like standing inside a living organ. Not fast, not loud, but vital and constant. This physical harmony is not accidental. It is the result of millions of years of refinement. Colonies that failed to regulate their climate died. Those that found balance survived. And so, through time, through failure and persistence, termites became masters of environmental control. Their stillness is earned. It is designed. Stillness here is energy well managed. It is not what happens when nothing moves. It is what happens when everything moves perfectly. No more, no less. The nest does not compete with its environment, it cooperates. It listens to the wind. It responds to the sun. It reflects the wisdom of structure, not force. Let yourself sit with that idea. That stillness can be a sign of mastery. That silence can be filled with knowledge. That the most advanced system in a dry, grassy field may not be a machine humming in a lab, but a mound of dirt built by creatures no larger than your fingernail. And inside, the laws of physics sing, not loudly, but in the soft hum of equilibrium. Let's drift deeper into the core of that stillness, where motion ceases to be a necessity and becomes a luxury. Within the winding tunnels of a termite nest, the very air is sculpted. It's not simply trapped or enclosed, it is engineered, guided gently like a stream through valleys. The termites, without diagrams or calculations, create a space that manages chaos with calm. They shape their home according to physical principles we name in textbooks: convection, diffusion, insulation. But to them, it is simply life. A life of responding, adjusting, and trusting in form. Picture the mound not as a building but as a living equation. Each curve and chamber is a variable, each passage a solution to a problem of heat, pressure, or breath. The termites do not know the math, but they feel the outcome. When the air becomes stale, they widen a shaft. When carbon dioxide gathers, they open new vents. This is not planning, it is feedback. The termites touch the air as potters touch clay, feeling its thickness, its weight, its readiness to move. And so they mold their home, moment by moment, into something more than shelter. They create balance. The physical world inside the nest is divided not by walls but by gradients. Temperature flows from warmer to cooler zones. Moisture shifts through vapor pressure, rising and falling through layers. Gas concentrations move like tides. The nest becomes a floating equilibrium, never static, always adjusting. These adjustments are not mechanical, they are behavioral. Tiny movements repeated millions of times until the space itself becomes self-correcting. At the center lies the royal chamber. It is the thermal heart of the colony. Here, where the queen rests and produces life, the climate must remain perfect. Warm but not hot, moist but not wet. The surrounding chambers are shaped to buffer this zone. They act like insulation, layered and porous, protecting the core from external shock. And the fungus gardens, they too are climate sensitive. The termites maintain them as you might tend a delicate instrument, clearing waste, adjusting airflow, responding to signals you can't see but can always feel. Sound and vibration in these chambers act like another layer of physics. When a threat approaches, perhaps a large predator disturbing the outer wall, soldier termites bang their heads against the ground. The sound does not echo, it flows. The rounded tunnels in soft soil carry it as a wave, letting it ripple through the nest. Every member feels it. It is not a noise in the ear but a signal in the body. And when felt, it is answered, not with panic but with patterned response. Guards mobilize. Workers retreat, builders prepare. This is a communication system without wires or light, without screens or signals. And yet it may be faster than anything we've made. A tremor travels instantly through feet and walls. The architecture of the nest is its nervous system, conducting motion, sound, scent, and heat with quiet fluency. This is the physics of softness. Not hard edges and forced flow, but curves and diffusion. Not sharpness, but shape. Engineers who model termite nests use airflow simulations to study how the structure behaves in changing conditions. What they find is astonishing. Even when the outer temperature shifts by 30 degrees in a day, the interior remains nearly constant. Even as winds buffet the mound, the air inside flows predictably, consistently. This stability is not accidental, it is earned through adaptation. The mound evolves with its inhabitants. And if they abandon it, nature slowly reclaims it, returning the materials to the land without waste. But while the nest persists, it becomes a cathedral of physics, a lesson in how life can shape its environment not through dominance but through understanding. Termites do not conquer their world. They listen to it. They learn from it. They become part of it. And through that, they become its most masterful stewards. Let's not mistake stillness for stagnation. In the termite nest, stillness is a signal of success. It means the system is working. That airflow has no resistance. That moisture is held where it is needed. That temperature gradients are shallow, gentle, and easy to maintain. In a chaotic world, stillness is the prize, the sign of a well-balanced system. It is the hush after harmony has been achieved. Perhaps we too could learn from this. Our buildings fight the environment, sealing out heat, pumping in air, forcing conditions to match our desires. Termites let the environment speak and they answer with form. Their nests are open yet protective, porous yet sealed. They are not fortresses, they are filters, and through them flows a quiet mastery. In this nest, physics is not cold or complex. It is comforting. It shapes a space where life can rest. It turns heat into motion, air into rhythm, vibration into language. It invites us to see nature not as a wild force to tame, but as a partner to dance with. The termite nest is its ballroom, curved, grounded, and alive with quiet music. Let us now return to the surface, but not to forget what lies below. As we emerge from the hidden depths of the termite nest, something lingers, a hum, a warmth, a realization. Stillness, we now see, is not an absence. It is the presence of perfect balance. Inside that quiet architecture, air did not rage or rest, it moved with grace. Heat did not rise in panic, it climbed like a breath. Moisture did not evaporate wildly, it wandered gently, as if following memory. In the silence of those chambers, physics became not an obstacle to life, but its tender companion. Above ground, we are often taught that to live is to move, to change, to act with urgency. We are told that motion proves life. But here, in the Earth's patient skin, termites have built a different truth. Their nest does not shout, it listens. It does not fight the world outside, it dances with it. Every curve of its surface, every twist in its tunnel, is a response to the rhythms of sun and wind and time. It is a form shaped not by ego but by awareness, and that awareness is quiet. These lessons are not lost on those who study them. Architects have begun to mimic termite mounds in designing buildings that cool themselves. No fans, no fuel, just shape and airflow. In Zimbabwe, one such office complex uses passive ventilation modeled on termite mounds, and the results are stunning. The building breathes, maintaining comfort with far less energy. What termites refined through instinct, we rediscover through science. And yet the principle remains the same. Cooperate with nature and it will support you. But the story of stillness goes deeper still. In the nest, there is no waste of effort, no unnecessary motion. Each movement is precise, each response timely. This kind of stillness does not come from doing nothing. It comes from doing only what is needed exactly when it's needed. It is a calm rooted in understanding. Imagine if our lives were shaped the same way. If our homes, our cities, our choices followed the same quiet intelligence. To live like a termite nest is not to live slowly, it is to live wisely. To know when to build and when to pause. To know when to let the wind carry your breath and when to seal the door. The termites do not struggle against nature, they lean into its arms. Their nest is a space of comfort not because it blocks the world but because it lets the world move through gently. In that flow, life is sustained. Stillness also carries resilience. The termite mound survives not because it is strong in the way of stone, but because it is soft in the way of earth. It can crack and heal. It can shift and still hold. It adapts not just season to season, but hour to hour. Its strength is in its flexibility. Its intelligence lies in its design, not rigid but responsive. This is a blueprint for more than buildings. It is a guide for being. Let us close our eyes now and remember the hush of the inner chamber. The queen lies still, surrounded by workers whose steps are light but whose purpose is weighty. The walls are warm, the air is calm, the rhythm of breath moves unnoticed. Outside, winds may howl, temperatures may spike, rain may fall, but inside the physics of stillness holds. The nest is not silent, it is perfectly balanced. And in that balance it becomes invisible, it becomes eternal. So when you next see a mound of dirt rising from the ground, do not walk past it. Stop. Look closer. What appears to be just a lump of earth may be one of the most advanced systems on the planet, a cathedral to physics, a temple to time, a monument to what can be built with patience, listening, and gentle adjustment. The termites have no eyes, yet they see with form. They have no voice, yet they speak in scent. They have no plans, yet they build wonders. Stillness, they show us, is not a void. It is a presence so full of knowledge that it no longer needs to move. It is the final note of a perfect song, held not in sound but in silence. The termite nest is that note, ringing quietly in the soil, holding the world in gentle equilibrium. And so we return to the surface changed, carrying with us the shape of that stillness, the one we could not see until we stepped inside. The stillness that breathes, that flows, that remembers. The stillness that holds the very physics of life. In the silence beneath our feet, where roots reach and stones sleep, the soil sings. Not with notes we hear, but with movements we feel. Here, in the layered hush of the underground world, insects speak through vibrations. It is not a language of words or sound waves. It is a language of touch, of tremble, of rhythmic pulses that ripple through earth and bodies alike. To walk through this world is to step into a symphony hidden in dirt. Every tunnel is a corridor of percussion. Every mound is a drum, tuned not by hands but by instinct. Termites, ants, beetles, and other subterranean architects live in a universe where vibrations are everything. In the dark, without eyes or light, they rely on the ground itself to communicate. Their feet are their ears. Their antennae are tuned to texture. Every tap and shift of soil carries information. A worker scraping along the wall leaves a trail of rhythm. A soldier's warning drumming echoes across chambers like a distant bell. Even the movement of a predator above creates a subtle pressure that triggers alertness far below. The soil is never silent. It hums with meaning. Termites in particular have refined this sensory system into something extraordinary. When danger nears, they do not shout. They do not flee in panic. Instead, a single soldier might raise its head and strike it against the tunnel floor, once, twice, 3 times. The sound does not travel as it would in air, but as a ripple through the ground. That ripple reaches others, carried by the walls of the nest, by the interconnected earth. One soldier's tap becomes another's, and soon the whole colony feels it, not hears it, but feels it in their legs, in their shells, in the quiet tension of the ground. This is seismic communication, low frequency, high efficiency. It carries even through the densest soil. It can bypass obstructions, ignore echoes, and reach those far from the source. In many nests, this vibrational network is faster than light, at least in terms of reaction time. While a sound may fade in air, a tremble in the soil can linger, spreading slowly, warning those deep within. In this way, the nest becomes a single sensing body. It does not need a brain. It is the brain. But vibrations do more than warn. They organize. Workers use them to coordinate construction. A certain frequency might indicate a need for more material. Another may signal a new chamber forming. These patterns are subtle, layered into daily routines, unnoticed to us but vital to them. It is not music in the way we know it, but it is a kind of score. And the colony together becomes the orchestra. Imagine sitting in such a chamber. The air is still. No voices speak, but under your body the earth is alive. You feel the thump of a soldier's alert. You sense the gentle scraping of workers smoothing a wall. You notice the rhythmic scurry of foragers returning. These are not chaotic movements. They have timing. They have pulse. The entire nest vibrates with a low, unending rhythm, the heartbeat of a city without sight. And the soil itself participates. Different textures carry vibrations differently. Clay dampens sound, sand sharpens it, moisture slows the pulse while dryness quickens it. Termites, through trial and adaptation, choose their materials wisely. They build not just for structure but for acoustics. The very makeup of the walls determines how their messages travel. In this sense, the mound is both an instrument and an amplifier. It is not just shaped for air but for soundless sound. Scientists studying these vibrations have begun to record them using sensitive equipment. What they find are complex waveforms, patterns of repetition, of crescendo and quiet. Not random, not noise, but structured signals. Through them, we are learning to understand how insects share knowledge, react to change, and even make decisions. We are beginning to translate the rhythms of the underground. Some species take it further. Certain ants use substrate-borne vibrations to signal recruitment, summoning help when food is found. Others use it to mourn, to signal a body to be carried away. These are not instinctive reflexes. They are communications with meaning. They suggest memory, recognition, a kind of primitive awareness. And all of it travels not through voice but through the bones of the world. As we begin to understand this language, we also begin to question our own. How much do we miss in the noise? How often do we speak when we should feel? The insects tell us something profound, that silence does not mean absence, that touch can carry truth, that a city can be built on rhythm alone. And so the soil sings not for us but for them. A song of work and warning, of return and retreat, of pulse and presence. Beneath every step we take, the concert continues unnoticed, but it is there. A reminder that life moves, speaks, and thrives even in the quietest places, through the gentlest tremble of the ground. Let's move deeper now, into the layers where sound no longer floats. It travels as weight. The vibrations of soil are not merely messages between creatures. They are memory, structure, and even emotion encoded in motion. The walls of insect cities do not just hold the colony, they remember what has passed through them. 1,000 tiny steps along the same path press patterns into the soil. Each beat of a termite's head, each scrape of a claw, alters the way the ground transmits the next signal. In this way, the past shapes the present, not in thought but in frequency. Termite mounds and ant nests evolve over time not just in form but in tone. The more a tunnel is used, the more it becomes tuned. The frequency it carries becomes clearer, more reliable. The insects, without knowing, optimize the acoustics of their world. They don't just build with shape, they build with sound. Some chambers become meeting grounds not because they're central but because they carry the clearest vibrations. Others become nurseries because they are still, shielded from tremors, cradled in silence. These choices are not random. They are felt. Workers change course when the soil trembles in the wrong way. Soldiers avoid walls that muffle their warnings. Even the Queen's chamber is placed where the earth listens best, where the slightest danger can be sensed before it becomes threat. The mound becomes a kind of musical instrument, played not with fingers but with footsteps, and the colony is always listening. But it is not just about danger. Vibrations guide the everyday rhythms of life. Foragers returning with food create pulses in the outer tunnels. Builders at work tap out a cadence in the inner chambers. Even the birth of new termites, hundreds, sometimes thousands, generates a soft rising hum as the nest adjusts to the shifting balance. These are not sounds of chaos. They are signals of alignment. In some species, the vibrations used during construction have been observed to affect how other termites mix and apply materials. A certain frequency tells a worker to bring more mud. Another tells it to shape a curve. This vibrational code creates decentralized design. No one termite oversees the build. No leader directs traffic. Yet everything emerges in order. It is not command, it is coherence. Each member acts in response to the shared rhythm, like musicians following an unheard conductor. This principle is known in science as stigmergy, coordination through the environment. A signal laid down by one triggers action in another. It's how ants build bridges from their bodies, how termites sculpt cathedral-like mounds, how entire colonies move like one. But underneath stigmergy lies vibration. It is the silent trigger, the tactile echo, the pulse that keeps the city in tune. Even the environment plays along. When rain falls, the droplets create tremors that echo into the soil. The insects respond, sealing chambers, slowing movement, huddling close. When predators dig near the entrance, the pressure travels inward before the claws arrive. The mound anticipates harm not through eyes but through waves. This is a kind of preemptive awareness, a defense rooted in physics rather than fear. Some researchers now believe that vibration may be the most ancient language of life. Before sound, before scent, before even sight, organisms likely sensed motion. A ripple in the water, a shift in the ground, the pulse of a heartbeat felt nearby. It is a universal signal crossing species, terrain, and time, and in the soil it remains untouched by complexity. Pure, immediate, deep. Imagine walking barefoot on the earth and feeling its song. Not in melody, but in rhythm. A rhythm that says something is near, something is moving, something is alive. The insects do this every second. Their feet are tuned to frequencies we cannot perceive. Their bodies are antennas, their nests of vast skins stretched across the land. They are not just living in the soil, they are playing it like an ancient drum, every step part of a pattern that echoes through generations. And so their world becomes one of patterns, not plans, of echoes, not commands, of movement, not voice. They do not need eyes to know where to go. They do not need light to find each other. The ground tells them everything. A tremble is a call, a stillness a rest, a rhythm a guide. The colony is not a place, it is a pattern held together by shared vibration. This is what we miss when we think of silence as absence. Silence in the soil is full of memory, message, and music. It is a silence that vibrates with purpose, and for the creatures who dwell there, this is enough. They do not need our sounds, our light, our noise. They have the earth, and the earth speaks in tremors. Now let us settle into the deepest chambers of the nest, where the vibrations soften like fatting breath, and even the earth seems to exhale more slowly. Down here, the rhythm changes, not because life has ceased, but because life has become still. The signals are quieter, more deliberate. There is no urgency. The work has slowed to a hum, and in this hum, something ancient lives. This is not simply the sound of insects moving. It is the physics of connection, the way energy passes through soil, through shell, through space. touching everything with gentle precision. In this stillness, something remarkable happens. Time stretches. The vibrations do not race ahead. They travel at their own pace, shaped by the density of clay, the dampness of air, the contour of wall, and the termites wait. They feel, they adjust. Every echo is a map, every tremble is a clue. They do not guess, they interpret. With every step, they tune themselves to the pulse of the structure, and the structure answers back. It is a constant dialogue of vibration, a conversation without words. As the colony matures, these vibrations become more refined. The older the nest, the more sensitive its soil becomes. The architecture remembers. The walls settle into perfect tension. Like the stretched skin of a drum, the earth becomes calibrated to even the softest signal. A newborn termite can feel the difference between a work rhythm and a warning beat. It does not need to be taught. It inherits the language the same way it inherits its legs, its mouth, its purpose. This is not learned behavior, it is lived behavior. Even death becomes part of the vibration. When a termite dies within the nest, the body sends out a chemical signal, but it also changes the tone of the chamber it lies in. The stillness deepens. The walls absorb the loss. Workers arrive not in panic, but in practiced rhythm, removing the body, sealing the space, restoring the balance. Grief here is motion. Mourning, a rearrangement of pressure. Insect cities do not cry. They reharmonize. The queen herself, vast and hidden, does not speak, but her presence is a pulse. Her breathing, her movement, her stillness, all shape the tempo of the colony. Her chamber is tuned more carefully than any other. The vibrations there are slow, low, stable, a resting heartbeat. When she lays eggs, the pattern changes. When she grows quiet, so does the nest. She is the metronome, and when she dies, the silence is immediate. The nest does not collapse, it pauses, it waits. It listens to itself, trying to find a new rhythm. Sometimes it does, sometimes it cannot. The colony lives or dies not just by food or threat, but by tempo. In this way, the mound is not just a shelter. It is a song that adapts, fades, renews. Its rhythms are stored in chambers and pathways, in habits and responses, in the shared resonance of thousands of tiny bodies. It holds a cultural memory, though not in the way humans know it. There are no stories, but there is a pattern, and the pattern holds meaning. Even after abandonment, the symphony remains. The tunnels may collapse, the surface may erode, but the soil beneath retains a memory of movement. Vibrations continue to echo for a while, soft, shallow, fading slowly like the final notes of a lullaby. And long after the last termite is gone, plants may grow in those tunnels, their roots guided by old vibrations. Seeds may settle in hollow spaces where once there was breath. Life follows rhythm, even when the instrument falls silent. To understand this is to understand that life does not begin with noise. It begins with sensitivity, with touch, with the awareness of pressure against skin, of tremble through earth. Termites and their kin teach us that life is not loud, it is attuned, and that communication does not require language, only connection, and the earth is always listening. We often marvel at birdsong, at whale song, at the music of frogs or wind, but there is music beneath us too, quieter, slower, less heard. It is the music of movement reduced to essence, the tapping of a soldier's head, the scrape of a builder's leg, the shift of warm soil underfoot. Together, they form a melody not for the ears, but for the bones, a song you feel more than hear. And maybe this is the deepest wisdom of all, that vibration is the original voice of life. Before there was speech, there was tremble. Before there was light, there was pulse. And in the soil beneath us, that voice still sings, still guides, still connects. So when you next stand in a field or walk through a quiet forest, pause, place your hand on the ground, close your eyes. Beneath you, the insects are speaking. They are building. They are remembering. And the earth is carrying their messages forward softly, endlessly, one vibration at a time. Beneath the surface of the earth, far from sunlight and wind, the air takes on a different life. It moves more slowly, more carefully, finding its way through pores in soil and cracks in stone. In this quiet world, oxygen is not simply present, it is precious. And for those who live underground like termites, the act of breathing is not taken for granted. It must be engineered. Within their subterranean cities, termites have learned how to guide air, how to hold it, filter it, and protect it. They do not breathe like we do, freely and unconsciously. They breathe like gardeners tending a rare and delicate plant, thoughtfully, gently, with care. The challenge begins with the earth itself. Soil is heavy. It presses down on all sides. It traps moisture. It resists flow. And yet, life persists within it. Termites, along with many other burrowing creatures, have found ways to live in this hidden environment. But their success is not by accident. It is by design. The structure of a termite nest is not only for shelter or safety. It is a machine built for air, a living apparatus designed to keep oxygen flowing where it is needed and carbon dioxide flowing out. In many termite species, the nest reaches both above and below ground. The above-ground mound acts like a lung, pulling in air from outside, catching breezes, and pushing them down through the tunnels. Inside, the structure narrows and widens with purpose, controlling the speed and direction of airflow. The walls themselves are porous, allowing gases to slowly exchange across their surfaces. And deep below, in the heart of the colony, where the queen rests and the workers live and the fungus grows, the air is kept in perfect balance, not too dry, not too wet, not too thin. Termites have no noses, no lungs. They breathe through tiny holes in their bodies called spiracles. These openings must remain moist yet clear. Too much humidity and they drown, too little and they dry out. The nest helps maintain this fragile equilibrium. The temperature remains nearly constant. The humidity hovers at ideal levels. Even when the outside world burns or freezes, the interior of the nest remains stable. And in this stability, breathing becomes possible. What's more, the fungus gardens termites cultivate require oxygen too. These gardens are essential to the colony's survival. They break down tough plant fibers into digestible food. They help recycle waste. And they breathe. So the architecture of the nest must serve both insect and fungus. Air must reach every corner. Stale gases must be removed. And this is done not by fans or pumps, but by shape and sequence. By the way chambers connect, by how tunnels curve, by how vents are positioned to catch the breath of the wind. This is not random construction. It is a delicate balance of physics and instinct. When scientists have measured oxygen and carbon dioxide levels inside termite nests, they found gradients, layers where concentrations shift with depth and position. Near the outer walls, oxygen is plentiful. Deeper in, it is less so, but never dangerously low. And carbon dioxide, produced by thousands of breathing termites, rises steadily from the center, finding paths upward and out. The nest exhales gently, always, like a forest in miniature. Some species build spiral vents to increase the surface area through which gas can move. Others create vertical shafts that act like chimneys, allowing warm air to rise naturally and draw fresh air behind it. These features are not universal, but they are all functional. Each species has found its own solution, shaped by climate, by soil, by time. And yet, all these solutions share one goal: to breathe underground. Breathing underground is not passive. It is active maintenance of invisible flow. Workers constantly inspect and repair tunnels. If airflow is blocked, they respond. If a vent is damaged, they rebuild. This is not mindless repair. It is essential survival. Without air, the colony suffocates. Without control, the fungus fails. So the termites, blind and tiny though they are, become custodians of breath. And the soil plays its part. The very grains of sand and clay help filter the air, removing pathogens, balancing humidity. The earth itself becomes a partner in respiration. It slows the movement of gases, allowing equilibrium to be reached. It absorbs the excess and cushions the lack. It does not fight the breath of the nest, it cradles it. To step into this system is to realize that air, so often invisible and ignored, is actually alive with purpose. In the termite nest, air is guided like water through irrigation canals. It is not pushed, it is invited. It is coaxed into motion by the quiet logic of pressure and temperature, of density and diffusion. It flows not in gusts but in sighs, And in those sighs, life continues. Let your imagination rest here in the gentle breath of the mound. Picture a world where air does not roar but glides, where a breeze is a gift, not a force, where every grain of soil participates in a grand choreography of survival. This is not just ventilation, it is harmony. And in that harmony, 1,000 lives unfold quietly, deeply, and with astonishing grace. Let's follow the breath now, deeper into the structure, into the winding spaces where the air barely moves but always matters. Here, oxygen is not abundant, but it is enough, just enough for life to thrive. The termites are not wasteful. They do not flood their chambers with air. They ration it, they direct it. They measure not in numbers but in feeling. The softness of a breeze against a spiracle, the way moisture clings to a tunnel wall, the difference in scent when air grows heavy, all these are signs. And the termites respond. The flow begins with heat. Inside the nest, the bodies of the colony, the decomposing material, the growing fungus, all produce warmth. This warmth rises naturally, seeking escape. The architecture captures this tendency. Vertical shafts near the center of the mound allow this warm, moist air to rise like smoke. And as it exits, cooler, drier air is drawn in from the lower openings. A breath out becomes a breath in. It is a complete cycle, continuous, unforced. This convection system is self-sustaining. It does not require intention. It only requires form. And the form is created, grain, by creatures smaller than your fingertip. These creatures never see the whole plan. They do not know the words for pressure or flow. But together, they shape a system that rivals human engineering. A system that works not through control, but through cooperation with the laws of nature. Humidity, too, is carefully managed. Too much and the fungus rots, too little and the colony dries. The mound's walls breathe water. They absorb it when there is excess and release it when there is need. It is a living sponge made of earth and instinct. The termites adjust the thickness of their walls according to the season. In the wet months, they add layers to slow evaporation. In the dry season, they chip away at the surface to let more air through. It is not decoration. It is respiration. And inside, in the darkest chambers, the queen rests. Her presence is central, not just in biology, but in breath. She is surrounded by caretakers and fungus gardens, by chambers where eggs are laid and hatched. These inner rooms are the most protected, not only from predators, but from bad air. The ventilation paths lead around them, ensuring fresh oxygen always arrives but never blows too fast. Stillness is key here. Too much wind would dry the eggs. Too little air would starve the young. So the nest is tuned, like a flute carved in soil, to a steady, soft rhythm. The fungus gardens are built on composted plant material carried in from above. This material breaks down, releasing both warmth and gases. The termites must regulate this process. They mix the compost, they move the fungus, they shift the air with their bodies. They walk in patterns that stir the environment. They do not know that they are adjusting temperature and oxygen levels, but they are. Each movement is part of a living algorithm, ancient and precise. Researchers who have placed sensors in termite nests find stable oxygen levels even meters below the surface. This is not easily explained by simple diffusion. The nest appears to help the gases move, not by force, but by making the journey easier. The pathways are smooth, the pressure differences consistent, the materials balanced. It is a kind of invisible plumbing. And it works day and night, in heat and cold, in drought and flood. This is the genius of termites, not that they understand physics, but that they obey it perfectly. They listen with their bodies, they feel the pulse of their surroundings, and they shape their home accordingly. Their survival depends on their ability to notice the subtlest change, a shift in air, a new scent, a damp patch on a tunnel wall. Their lives depend on this attention. And it is not only their lives. The soil itself benefits. These mounds bring air into deeper layers of earth. They oxygenate the ground. They create pockets of life where none would be. Other insects, even plants, take advantage of the changed chemistry. Microbes flourish in the softened, aerated soil. Seeds sprout in abandoned tunnels. A mound may begin as shelter, but it becomes an ecosystem. The termites do not know they are building for others. They do not plan to create homes for beetles or roots or fungi beyond their gardens. But they do. Their breath becomes the breath of the earth. Their tunnels become the veins of a larger living system. Their stillness becomes the stability of everything above. Imagine now that you are small enough to walk these tunnels. You feel the coolness of the air on your skin. You notice the slope of the floor, always guiding you forward, never steep. You pause in a chamber and feel the softness of the wall, the way it holds moisture without dripping. You feel the quiet, not silence, but balance. The air is not still because nothing moves. It is still because everything has already moved in just the right way. This is the wisdom of breath in the earth. It is not about having more. It is about having enough placed perfectly, moving gently, serving life in every direction. Termites do not chase air. They invite it. They make room for it. And in return, the air sustains them, carries them, nourishes their gardens and their young. Here, breathing is not an act of urgency. It is a ceremony of design. Let us stay here in this final stretch of the journey, where the breath of the nest moves as softly as thought, and the air itself seems to hum with patience. The architecture around us no longer feels like construction. It feels like intention molded by time. There is no engine, no hum of machinery, yet the air flows. It curves through tunnels, swirls around chambers, and rests where it is needed, as if it knows its role. This is not magic. It is the physics of quiet wisdom, designed not in blueprints, but in instinct and repetition, refined by a million lifetimes. The nest is old now. Its walls are darker, thicker, packed with generations of soil and memory, yet it continues to breathe. Even in age, the mound performs its task, bringing life-sustaining oxygen into its deepest hollows. A slight rise in temperature here, a trickle of moisture there, these are the cues that guide the air. The termites respond by altering pathways, smoothing walls, opening a vent that had been sealed for a season. The colony does not panic. It adjusts. Above, the wind shifts. A storm may gather. The surface may bake or freeze, but within, the air remains steady. The termites do not know what weather is coming, but they can feel the change in pressure. They respond not to forecasts, but to the tremble in the atmosphere. They do not speak, but together they act. They are not aware, but they understand. And when the colony reaches the end of its cycle, when the queen grows still and the workers slow, there is no collapse. The air continues to move, though more gently now. The mound begins to settle. Chambers close. Tunnels are no longer maintained, but still the structure breathes. For a while longer, the fungus gardens continue to exhale carbon and the vents draw in the last traces of clean air. The nest becomes quieter, yes, but never silent all at once. Life fades in rhythm, not in rupture. After the colony has gone, the mound does not vanish. It remains an empty lung of earth, a vessel once filled with breath and movement. Its walls, once warm with life, become homes for other creatures. Lizards crawl through the hollow shafts. Beetles lay their eggs in forgotten chambers. Roots find their way in, following old paths of air and softness. The structure that once served breath continues to serve life. The soil around the mound grows richer. Decayed material from the nest feeds new growth. Trees planted near abandoned mounds often grow stronger, their roots nourished by the underground network of aeration and nutrients. Even in stillness, the breath of the termites remains, not in motion, but in legacy. The architecture of breath becomes the architecture of rebirth. What termites teach us is that breathing need not be loud. It need not be mechanical. It can be gentle, graceful, and shared. Their nests are a testament to this, the idea that balance can be built, that air can be welcomed, not forced, that life can thrive not by controlling nature but by cooperating with it. In our own designs, we often fight air. We seal it out, we push it in. We make it cold or hot or sterile. But what if, like the termites, we listened? What if we shaped our spaces to work with air, to move with it, to breathe alongside it? Termite mounds are not buildings. They are environments tuned to life. They do not dominate their surroundings. They tune themselves to them, and in that tuning they create harmony. Let us remember that the air we breathe is ancient. It has passed through leaves, through oceans, through the lungs of birds and beasts. It has settled in termite nests and risen through volcanoes. It carries dust and pollen and memory, and it moves always towards balance. The termites do not fear this. They live in its flow. They shape their homes to accommodate its rhythm, not interrupt it, and through that they become part of something larger. As we leave the mound, we carry this with us, not just the image of tunnels and chambers, but the feeling of breath in the earth, the way air can be guided by form, the way survival can be soft, the way oxygen, so often invisible, is actually the most intimate companion life can have. So breathe now wherever you are. Feel the air enter and leave your body. Let it remind you of the silent work happening just beneath your feet, the slow, steady breath of the soil, the quiet inhalation of the land, the exhalation of all things living. Termites do not take this for granted, and perhaps neither should we. In the dark, where light has never reached, architects are at work. They carry no tools, they draft no blueprints, they see nothing, not even each other, yet they build. And what they build is lasting, intricate, astonishing. These are the shadow engineers, termites, ants, and countless other blind builders who design complex cities with no need for sight. Their maps are made of scent. Their plans are etched into instinct. Their sense of direction is drawn from vibration, temperature, and the softest shifts in pressure. They do not need vision to know where they are. They feel it. To walk through a termite nest is to enter a system guided by intelligence beyond the individual. A single termite is unaware of the whole. It knows only its task, its moment. But when thousands, even millions, act in shared rhythm, something greater emerges. The city takes shape not randomly, not chaotically, but precisely. Hallways curve, chambers branch, ventilation shafts rise. Each grain of soil is placed not by accident, but by logic embedded in the collective. There is no overseer, no command center. The design unfolds from the dance of the many. This is stigmergy in motion, a process where each action leaves a mark on the environment and that mark guides the next action. One termite lays down a trail of pheromones, another follows, a third strengthens the path. Soon a tunnel forms. Elsewhere a chamber is too warm. Workers notice not with thought but with sensation. They bring cooler soil. They expand the wall. Air begins to move. Without speaking, without seeing, the mound adapts. The architecture evolves. These creatures are blind, but they are not lost. They navigate by texture, by chemical gradient, by memory not held in minds, but in motion. The shape of a tunnel tells them where they are. The feel of the floor beneath their feet tells them what has passed this way before. The scent on the wall tells them what to do next. Their guidance system is environmental. It is embedded in the structure itself. In some species, termite workers can identify tiny differences in humidity within a tunnel, differences smaller than a human could detect with instruments. They adjust their behavior accordingly. They prefer certain angles, certain degrees of smoothness. They avoid sharp turns. They prefer soft spirals. These preferences, repeated by thousands of individuals, result in consistency. The nest, though built without a plan, always ends up looking the same. This is pattern without prediction. Order without oversight. And what they build is vast. Some termite mounds rise over 30 feet high. Others stretch underground for hundreds of feet. Their tunnels include storage chambers, nurseries, farming rooms, water reservoirs, and waste pits. Each is placed with purpose. Yet no termite ever sees the whole. They do not need to. Their wisdom is local. Their world is immediate. And through that they build something far-reaching and whole. We tend to think of vision as the highest sense. It guides us, orients us, keeps us safe. But in the soil, where darkness is constant, other senses take its place. Here, touch is sight, temperature is map, scent is memory. A single tap on the soil can carry more meaning than 1,000 images. A slight increase in carbon dioxide is a signal stronger than any signpost. These builders are not limited by blindness. They are defined by what they do despite it. And perhaps in some ways they are more attuned than we are. We rely on what we can see. They rely on what they can feel. When the environment changes, when the soil grows too dry or too wet, when predators come, when airflow shifts, They react faster than we ever could, not because they understand, but because they are connected. Their bodies are instruments. Their tunnels are sensors. Their colony is a mind made of movement. To build without seeing requires trust, not in a leader but in process. Each termite trusts that the path will form if it follows the signs, that the air will move if it digs this way, that the chamber will cool if it widens the wall. There is no blueprint, only the rhythm of cause and effect, repeated over and over until structure appears. Imagine this, building an entire city without ever stepping back to look at it, not knowing how far it stretches, not knowing how high it climbs, just trusting the next action, responding to the next signal, following the next scent. This is what termites do every day. They do not pause to marvel at what they've made, but we can. We can see the towers, the tunnels, the patterns. And we can marvel, not at their size, but at the fact that such complexity can emerge from blindness, from simplicity, from touch. In their darkness, termites have found clarity. In their limitation, they have found possibility. And in their humble, soil-packed halls, they have built some of the most stable, enduring structures nature has ever known. Let us move inward where darkness deepens and the work of the blind continues with unbroken precision. In this space, there is no light to guide a path, no vision to admire what has been shaped. Yet the construction carries on. The termites feel everything they need to know. The angle of a tunnel, the scent of a passing worker, the moisture clinging to the wall, these are the cues that shape their world. It is not direction by compass, but by consistency. Not navigation by map, but by memory stored in every step, every surface, every silent curve. The interior of the nest is not symmetrical, but it is balanced. The chambers do not follow rigid lines, yet they are never disorderly. They are placed where the air flows best, where the warmth of the colony can be regulated, where the queen's presence can be protected. This wisdom is not assigned to one leader. It is felt across many. Each termite contributes a decision so small it cannot be noticed alone. But together, these micro-decisions give rise to structure, a living algorithm powered by touch and trust. Scent is a language here. Pheromones guide behavior. A trail laid down by one termite is enough to alter the choices of hundreds. The strength of a smell tells a worker whether to keep going or turn. A fatting scent is a sign that the job is done. A sharp one is a call to act. This system, though invisible, is incredibly efficient. It allows termites to coordinate their actions across long distances and complex tasks. With no eyes, they see through chemistry. And these trails are not permanent. They are written in time. As the pheromones fade, so does the memory they hold. This keeps the system adaptive. A tunnel no longer needed will fall out of use naturally. A chamber in disrepair will be abandoned without command. There is no need for demolition. The nest edits itself, always refining, always reshaping in response to the needs of now. It is an intelligence not of foresight but of feedback. In this way, the structure becomes alive, not in the biological sense but in the dynamic one. It breathes, adapts, heals, and grows without conscious thought. If a part of the mound collapses, workers rush in, not because they are told, but because they feel the change. The vibrations have altered. The air moves differently. The temperature spikes. These are the signals, and the response is swift. Soil is packed. Tunnels are rerouted. Balance is restored. This responsiveness makes the nest resilient. It is not brittle. It bends with its environment. It reacts to storm and drought, to predator and pest. It adjusts its walls when the seasons shift. It rebalances its chambers as the colony grows. And all of this is done in the dark, with no overview, no central mind, just the collective actions of many, following a language written in scent and shape. The most intricate parts of the nest are often the least visible. Spiral shafts that manage airflow, moisture traps that condense water from the breath of the colony, secret nurseries buried deep beneath protective layers of soil. These are built not by instruction, but by memory, passed not in stories, but in behavior. The termites that build today are not taught by those who built before. They inherit the instincts that allow the same actions to unfold again and again. each generation refining what the last has left behind. And there is elegance in this blindness, a kind of beauty in its quiet success. These creatures do not strive for complexity, they strive for balance. Their homes are not made to impress, they are made to function, to last, to breathe. And in that they become beautiful, because form follows need. And every curve, every opening, every supporting arch exists because it must, not because it pleases the eye. Engineers now study these structures to understand how decentralized design can solve complex problems. The idea that many small actions, if guided by simple rules and timely feedback, can result in brilliant systems. We call it emergent behavior, but termites have lived by it for millions of years. They do not call it anything, they simply live it. To build without eyes requires surrender, not to chaos but to process. The builder must trust that the path will form beneath its feet, that others will follow if the signals are right, that the home will stand not because it was planned but because it was felt into being. It is a different kind of intelligence, one that grows from within, that listens more than it speaks, that shapes without seeing. So let us sit in this chamber, feel the air as it moves, feel the floor under hand or foot, and understand. This was built in darkness, not in blindness but in touch. Every inch placed by creatures who never knew the whole but who knew enough to make it whole. And in this way, they've built what many with vision could not: homes that last, cities that breathe, communities that adapt. The shadow engineers do not need eyes to understand space. They do not need light to make it beautiful. They only need time, instinct, and a world that answers when they listen. Let us remain now in the quiet dark, where the blind builders carry out their final tasks, and the structure around them grows not with haste but with harmony. The nest is nearly complete, not in the sense of being finished but in being whole. There will always be new tunnels to dig, chambers to widen, walls to repair. But the shape of the nest has emerged, as it always does, from touch and trust. It does not need a master plan. It needs only the next movement, made with care, sensed through the feet, echoed in the soil. Here the future is not predicted, it is built, one instinct at a time. What is most astonishing is not the complexity of what's created, but how that complexity arises from simplicity. Each termite follows a few basic rules: react to scent, avoid high humidity, follow the trail, maintain temperature. From these simple behaviors comes a cathedral of soil, a self-cooling, self-repairing, oxygen-regulating, population-supporting marvel, not because each termite understands, but because each termite participates. The blueprint is not written down, it is lived, embodied, repeated until it becomes form. The colony functions like a murmuration of starlings or a school of fish, many bodies moving as one, without collision, without confusion. The termites do not ask questions, they sense, and in their sensing they act, and in their action the structure evolves. There are no arguments, no corrections, no egos. There is only the task and the tactile language passed from foot to floor to future. And when danger comes, when the ground quakes or a predator digs, the same blindness becomes their shield. Sight would slow them, vision would distract, but touch is instant. The shift in vibration, the sudden burst of scent, the compression of air in a tunnel, these are messages received faster than thought. In seconds the colony responds. Soldiers move to block, workers reroute, builders reinforce. The damage is felt and repaired before it becomes collapse. Even death is handled with precision. A fallen termite changes the chemistry of the space around it. The scent of decay signals others to act. The body is removed, the chamber sealed or cleaned. There is no mourning, only adjustment. The system does not dwell. It continues seamlessly because each member is part of the flow, not the focus. When the queen dies, something deeper shifts. Her scent fades. Her presence, once felt in every chamber, disappears. The builders pause, not in grief but in recalibration. Without her signal, the rhythm of the colony alters. Sometimes a new queen is chosen and life resumes. Sometimes the colony disperses. The nest, once alive with motion, grows still. But even then the structure holds. It does not crumble, it remains, its tunnels intact, its chambers waiting. It becomes part of the landscape, a hollowed vessel ready to host new life. And what is left behind is more than walls. It is a map of movement, a fossil of behavior, a memory made solid. Later creatures will enter. Small lizards, beetles, snakes. Seeds will fall into empty shafts. Rain will trickle through spiral vents. Roots will follow the softened paths. What was once a home for one species becomes a framework for many. This is the legacy of the blind builders, not just a home, but a haven. And above we pass by, often unaware. We see the mound, if we see it at all, as a bump in the land. We do not know the precision within, the walls curved for air, the chambers aligned for sound, the tunnels shaped by scent. We do not see that what we dismiss as dirt is actually design, and not design made by sight but by sensitivity, by repetition, by trust. There is a lesson here if we choose to feel it. That vision is not the only path to beauty. That maps are not the only way to arrive. That intelligence can be distributed, that form can arise from flow. That building can happen not through domination but through dialogue, with the air, with the soil, with one another. And perhaps, in a way, the most visionary builders are those who never see, who place their faith not in what they can plan but in what they can sense, who build because the world speaks to them through heat and pressure and breath, and who answer that call quietly, completely. So as we rise from the darkness of the nest and step again into the light, we carry this with us, that even in blindness there is brilliance, that even in silence there is song, that even in a mound of earth there is the shape of wisdom, not drawn but felt, not declared but lived, and that sometimes the most extraordinary things are made by those who never need to see them to know they're true. Sleep is not simply rest. It is restoration, recalibration, a quiet balancing act performed night after night. For humans, sleep is a drifting into softness. For animals, it is shelter beneath leaf and stone. But in the insect world, sleep is a pattern woven into architecture itself. It is not just a state of being, it is a shape, a space, a rhythm etched into walls and tunnels. And nowhere is this more evident than in the intricate geometry of a termite nest, where design does not just protect life, it nurtures its deepest stillness. The geometry of the nest is subtle, never flashy. It curves instead of corners, it spirals instead of stopping. These choices are not decorative, they serve a purpose, supporting cycles of movement, of breath, and of rest. Termites do not sleep like we do. Their rest is a scattered rhythm, moments of stillness woven between tasks, but the colony itself sleeps. It hums at a different pace at night. Its temperature dips, its activity slows, and the nest in its shape honors this rhythm. The chambers are not all equal. Some are warmer, closer to the core. Others are cooler, built near the surface. Some are silent, tucked away like nests within nests. These are the resting chambers, not randomly placed, but positioned where sound is muffled, where air is stable, where vibration fades. Here, termites pause, they fold into themselves, they renew, and around them the architecture waits, holding space for stillness. The tunnels that connect these chambers are smooth and sloped, allowing effortless movement between activity and repose. No sharp turns, no harsh transitions. The geometry itself calms the body. A worker moving from task to rest does not need to choose where to go. The structure guides them, gently, naturally. This is design as lullaby, space as a signal to slow. Temperature, too, is shaped by the nest. The walls absorb heat by day and release it by night, maintaining comfort. The materials breathe, buffering the swings between day and darkness. And deep inside, the resting places remain undisturbed, held in an even warmth that cradles the sleeping body. This is not accident. It is passive regulation, perfected by instinct and time. In some species, termites have been observed to gather in clusters during their rest cycles. These clusters form in precise spots, corners of chambers where airflow is minimal, where sound is lowest, where moisture is just right. These are not just empty spaces. They are beds arranged not by choice but by design. The nest provides them without needing to ask, and the termites accept them without needing to search. The queen, always at the center, experiences rest differently. Her chamber is the most carefully tuned of all, Constant warmth, still air, guards at the perimeter maintain a hush. She does not move often. Her sleep is part of her function, deep, rhythmic, uninterrupted, and the colony shapes itself around her slowness. The nest becomes an extension of her body, mirroring her needs, regulating her rest. This symmetry between rest and space echoes throughout the insect world. Ant colonies form sleeping zones near nurseries. Bees create temperature-stable zones where young can sleep in safety. Even beetles burrow into curved grooves where pressure on their bodies is evenly distributed, allowing true stillness. These are not random shelters. They are geometric solutions to biological needs. Nature has long known that rest is not a break from life, it is part of its unfolding, and it designs accordingly. A curve that slows the wind, a chamber that holds heat, a wall that muffles sound. These are lullabies written in structure, not sound. Songs that cannot be heard but can be felt. Imagine resting in such a place. No noise, no light, only the feeling of air moving softly around you. The scent of soil, the slight give of the wall behind you, the cool press of stone beneath. You would not need to think about sleeping. You would simply fall into it, because everything around you would be telling your body, here you are safe. Here you are held. Here you may rest. The termites do not question this. They follow it. They live inside it. Their rest is made possible not by choice, but by design, by a home that knows when to cool, when to quiet, when to hold still. A home that understands the geometry of sleep. And so, as the day ends and the activity of the colony slows, the nest begins its soft work. It becomes quieter. Its temperature settles. Its walls grow still. And within its curves and chambers, tiny bodies rest, not alone, not afraid, but surrounded by a design meant only for this, to give them sleep, to give them pause, to give them peace. Let's move deeper into the still hours of the colony, where the rhythm of rest becomes the rhythm of the nest itself. Even without clocks, without stars, without nightfall in the sky above, termites know when to slow. The structure around them carries time, not in seconds or minutes, but in sensation. The walls warm and cool with a measured breath. The air moves more gently. The sounds, already soft, grow softer still. The architecture itself seems to hush. In these moments, sleep is not something found. It is something arrived at, as naturally as dew forms on leaves. The resting chambers have their own geometry. They are often oval, never square. This curvature matters. It helps distribute heat, reduce corners where stress can accumulate, and calm the flow of air. The smoothness eases movement but also dampens vibration. A tremor that might travel easily down a narrow hall is softened in these curved rooms. This matters for rest. The termite's world is built of vibration, of footsteps, warnings, rhythms. But in sleep, that symphony quiets. And the shape of the chamber becomes its silence. These resting spaces are not assigned. No termite is told where to go. But over time, the colony self-organizes. Workers find the places that hold their stillness best. Young termites cluster near warmth. Older ones choose spaces more private, more still. The queen, as always, rests where the nest breathes slowest, at the quietest center. No hierarchy dictates this. It is chosen by sensation, by the wisdom of bodies listening to walls, to air, to each other. And the air, oh, the air is everything. In these sleep zones, it does not stir sharply. It glides, pulled gently through the system by the pressure differences created by other chambers heating, others cooling. The ventilation is subtle. No wind brushes the resting bodies. No draft startles them awake. Instead, the air cushions, wraps, and lingers. Even its movement carries rest. The materials of the nest play their part too. The soil is mixed with saliva and plant matter, creating walls that can hold and release moisture slowly. They do not drip, they do not crack, they flex. They absorb heat during the day and release it through the night. Resting termites press their bodies to these walls, not for comfort, though it is comforting, but because the walls breathe. The temperature does not drop sharply here. It eases downward. The darkness does not come all at once. It thickens gently. The space tells the body, you may let go now. Some termites rest alone. Others gather in spirals or loose piles. When they do, their bodies touch lightly, sharing warmth, sharing stillness. There is no need for words, for promises. Rest is communal by nature. Safety is felt in the nearness of others. The walls do not press. They surround. The floor does not demand. It holds. Researchers studying these colonies at night observe this shift. The energy changes. Movement becomes minimal. The mound seems to sleep, though not all at once. Always some remain awake, soldiers standing guard, workers adjusting temperature, foragers preparing to leave. But even those awake move more slowly. Their pace matches the softness around them. The entire nest enters a state of reduced energy. It is not shutdown. It is regulation, a deliberate lowering of rhythm. And still the architecture supports it. The tunnels to sleeping chambers curve away from high-traffic areas. Chambers are staggered, not stacked, to avoid sound passing too easily from one to another. The nest becomes layered like a cocoon, each layer insulating the one beneath, protecting its rest. The design is not flat. It flows, and in that flow, fatigue is met with refuge. There is something profoundly tender in this. That creatures so small, who live without eyes, who speak without voices, should build homes that hold sleep so gently. That they would shape chambers not just for survival but for slowness. That they would carve a world where rest is not stolen in fear but offered in form. We often think of insects as relentless, mechanical. But here, in the hush of the nest, they are not machines. They are beings that know when to stop. And perhaps this is what the nest understands best, that sleep is not the absence of doing, it is a doing of its own, a recalibration, a regeneration. The architecture does not interrupt this. It supports it. It expects it. It was built for it. Imagine if our own spaces did the same, if our rooms cooled as we slowed, if our walls softened when we grew tired, if rest was not something we had to find, but something that found us, because everything around us had been built to notice the moment we needed to pause. The termite nest is such a place, a geometry that listens, that remembers the rhythms of the day and folds them into the shape of night, that speaks not in commands but in comfort. And in this gentle design, sleep is no longer an escape. It is a homecoming. Let us remain here one last time in the deep lull of the colony's stillness. The air has cooled, the rhythm of footsteps has slowed, and the geometry around us feels more like breath than structure. This is the part of the nest where time stretches thin, where every sound is a murmur, and every motion, if it happens at all, is wrapped in gentleness. In this final space, the design itself has taken on the quality of sleep. The walls no longer simply hold, they cradle. The tunnels no longer merely connect, they calm. The architecture, after so much purpose and motion, allows itself to rest. The termites do not call this sleep. They have no word for it, but their bodies know. Their pace, their posture, their presence all reflect a shift, a giving in. Sleep for them is 1,000 tiny moments scattered like soft dust between labor, yet the nest anticipates it, it makes room, it shelters the pause. In the way it curves, in the way it silences vibration, in the way it carries air without rushing, it says, "Here you may stop." And they do. Even the materials of the nest have memory. Clay and soil packed with intention begin to change as they age. They harden where needed, but in the resting chambers they stay soft. Termites maintain this softness without knowing why, only that it feels right, that it holds warmth better, that it muffles better, that it allows their legs to stretch and their backs to press gently into the ground without resistance. It is not comfort for luxury's sake. It is comfort because stillness, too, is a form of survival. In a world where nothing sees and everything feels, sleep becomes a sensation shared between body and space. And in that sharing, the nest becomes more than shelter. It becomes a partner, a participant in the act of renewal. The termites do not sleep in spite of their environment, they sleep because of it. The nest enables this. It wraps each insect in a layer of form shaped by countless others, all guided by the same unspoken agreement. Rest is necessary, and we will make space for it together. The queen, still at the center, is the pulse of this stillness. Her chamber, already the warmest and most stable, grows quieter in these hours. Her breathing slows. The workers around her tend to her less urgently. She is not disturbed. The air barely moves. The The chamber remains constant. This center holds not just life but rest itself. It is a symbol of peace achieved through cooperation, and a reminder that even in the most active of colonies, there is always a place for quiet. Above, the world may shift, night may deepen, or dawn may begin. But inside, in this geometry of sleep, the lines do not harden with fear or urgency. They remain fluid. The architecture does not demand waking. It allows it gently when it is time. The tunnels begin to stir again, not because of alarm, but because the cycle turns. The temperature inside rises by a fraction. The airflow picks up slightly. The pheromone trails grow stronger. Termites begin to move, not all at once, but like the first wind through a field. The nest breathes in again. This awakening is not a jolt. It is a continuation. The resting bodies shift into motion. Tasks resume. Repairs are made. Food is gathered. The nest hums once more, but the memory of rest lingers. The chambers remain. The curves still hold. The softness still offers its comfort to the next who needs it. Nothing is erased by waking. The design remains, waiting for night to come again. In our own world, we often forget to build for sleep. We construct walls, machines, cities, but rarely places that invite true stillness. We chase efficiency and light, forgetting that rest is not the opposite of progress, but its foundation. The termites remind us that homes are not only for protection. They are for renewal. They are for softening the edges of effort. They are for surrender so that tomorrow's work can begin again. Let us carry that thought with us now, as we rise from the chambers of the nest. Let us remember the way the walls curved to guide breath, the way the air slowed to hold warmth, the way the silence felt full instead of empty. These are the lessons of creatures that never see their home, but build it perfectly all the same. The geometry of sleep is not complex. It is simply kind. A curve instead of a corner, a chamber just quiet enough, a tunnel wide enough to walk slowly. These small choices, repeated again and again, create something profound, not a fortress but a sanctuary, not a structure of dominance but of care. So when the day grows long and your body begins to slow, think of the termite's nest, of how the earth holds its smallest children in stillness, of how sleep is not the end of the day but the beginning of balance, and of how, in the silence we often overlook, there is a design meant to heal, not loudly but gently, one breath at a time. Beneath the surface of every step, beneath the roots of every tree, lies something we rarely think about: dust, soil, fragments of things once living, now silent. But this dust, this soil, is not inert. It holds memory. It holds movement. It holds intention. It listens to footsteps, collects echoes of rain, absorbs the shape of the creatures who dig and burrow and sleep within it. And in termite nests, the soil becomes something even more, an intelligent medium. A material that not only responds to life, but helps life persist. Here, the dust does not scatter, it remembers. The walls of a termite mound are made from this memory. Not just loose particles, but carefully selected grains, mixed with saliva, molded by touch, chosen for their texture, their weight, their ability to hold or release moisture. Every tunnel carved, every chamber formed tells a story of response. The termites do not build for beauty. They build for feedback. And in return, the soil answers. It holds its shape when it must and crumbles when it needs to be rebuilt. It thickens in heat and thins in cold. It resists wind but allows air to pass. It becomes not just the setting for life, but the partner in it. Inside the nest, each patch of earth behaves differently. Some regions hold more warmth, others drain water more slowly. Some absorb vibration, softening the world to let sleep come. Others amplify the lightest tap, carrying messages across the mound like a whisper in the dark. This variability is not a flaw. It is a feature. It means the colony can tune its environment, not by controlling every grain, but by understanding what the soil already knows. Termites do not think of the soil as separate from themselves. It is their material, their memory, their medium. They learn by touching it, they communicate through it, they change it and it changes them. A worker digging a tunnel senses resistance. The angle shifts, the soil hardens, the termite pauses, it tries another way. Over time, this interaction becomes a map, a memory etched not in minds but in material, and the colony follows that memory without needing to understand it. This is the intelligence of substrate, not fast, not conscious, but responsive, layered, and real. Soil holds temperature, pressure, scent, and sound. It records where water flowed, where footsteps passed, where roots once reached. It is a diary of motion and rest. And in termite nests, that diary becomes the script for survival. Researchers studying these nests have found patterns in the soil that tell stories centuries old. Fossilized mounds show the same curves, the same shafts, the same balances, repeated across time and species. Not because the termites remember, but because the soil taught them. Each generation starts with instinct, but the earth finishes the lesson. What works remains. What fails disappears. The soil in this way is a silent tutor. Let us imagine now the slow shaping of one of these mounds. A drop of rain falls. The surface softens. A termite tests it with its legs, feels the give, brings a grain. Another follows. Together they patch a crack, open a vent, extend a tunnel. They do not see what they build, but they feel it. The soil pushes back when it needs to. It allows passage when it's ready. And through this tactile conversation, architecture unfolds. And when the rain ends and the sun returns, the surface dries again. The mound hardens. The memory of the repair is held in place. That patch will last for weeks, perhaps months. Other termites passing by will feel the change. They may add to it. They may widen it, or they may leave it untouched because it no longer demands action. The soil, through its firmness, says, "This part is settled. This part is whole." In this way, the dust beneath our feet is not dead. It is a participant, a co-creator. It receives action and gives back guidance. And when shaped by millions of tiny feet and millions of tiny choices, it becomes more than soil. It becomes story. We often think of intelligence as something that speaks, that calculates, that sees. But perhaps there is a quieter form, an intelligence that feels, absorbs, adjusts. The kind of knowing that comes not from thinking quickly, but from listening long. Soil listens. It listens with pressure and moisture and texture, and it answers with form, with resistance, with shelter. So when you walk across bare ground and feel it firm beneath your feet, know that you are touching something that remembers, something that once held roots and bones and rain, something that shaped homes for creatures you'll never see, in patterns you'll never fully know. And in that soil, even now, a quiet mind remains, steady, slow, and endlessly wise. Let us descend further now, not into tunnels, but into the very particles that hold them. Each grain of soil in a termite mound has been placed with a kind of silent intention, not by command, not by design drawn out in full, but by the immediate needs of a colony and the responding texture of earth. The termites do not ask the soil what it wants. They feel it. If it crumbles too easily, they abandon it. If it packs too tight, they moisten it. If it molds just right, soft enough to shape, firm enough to hold, they stay. This is not trial and error. This is partnership. As more soil is placed, the material begins to speak back. It hardens in one place, allowing a shaft to carry weight. It holds moisture in another, keeping air humid in key chambers. It resists erosion where the winds are strong. None of this is planned, and yet it is no accident either. The termites adjust as they go. Their touch is informed by feedback. Each placement is an experiment, and each result is read not in sight but in feel. The mound is shaped like a question, constantly being answered by the soil. And the soil in return holds memory, not in thought but in pattern. It holds the imprint of every tunnel that ever ran through it, of every footfall, every patch, every repair. Even long after a termite colony has died, these imprints remain. The soil remembers what held, what cracked, what allowed breath to pass. The next colony may never meet the one before it, but it benefits from the decisions already made. In this way, the earth teaches, not with intention but with result. There is something beautiful in this type of knowing, the kind that exists without language, the kind that spreads slowly, layer by layer, not in the speed of sparks across neurons, but in the resistance of clay underfoot. The intelligence of dust is slow, yes, but it is deep. It does not shout, it settles. Moisture changes everything. When rain comes, the soil swells, pores tighten, airflow slows, and the termites feel this instantly. They do not measure, but they act. They widen some passages, narrow others. They dig vents where heat gathers. They build walls where water seeps. And the soil listens. It dries in some places. It absorbs in others. Over time, this dance of adjustment leaves a physical record, a sequence of responses etched into the walls. These are decisions you can touch, long after the builders are gone. And so, the nest becomes a memory device, a form of environmental recording, like the rings of a tree or the layers of rock in a canyon wall. Each curve and surface tells not just how it was made, but why. Scientists can trace airflow patterns, moisture shifts, and thermal behavior by reading the contours of a mound. But long before science measured these things, termites knew them by feel, and the soil held their knowledge. Even temperature, something so abstract, leaves its mark. Heat expands certain materials, dries others, weakens or strengthens bonds between grains. In the nest, this matters. Termites use different soil mixtures in different parts of the structure. Near the top, where sun and air are strongest, the walls are thin and breathable. Near the core, where life is most delicate, the walls are thicker, dampened, wrapped in layers like blankets. These choices are not artistic. They are functional. And they are informed entirely by what the soil allows. In this way, the soil becomes more than a building material. It becomes a guide, a collaborator. It teaches through friction, through absorption, through resistance. It tells the termites when to stop, when to try again, when to move. And the termites, in their blindness, trust it more than we trust our eyes. They do not argue with it. They do not force it. They respond. What emerges is not a static form, but a living process. A home that changes with time. A mound that swells and shrinks with the seasons, that adjusts to its own aging, that learns through use. We often think of homes as fixed things, but for termites, a home is never finished. It is always becoming, always listening. Imagine a home like that, one that knew when you were tired and softened, one that knew the rain was coming and sealed itself, one that knew the wind had changed and opened to let it pass. Termites live in such places, not because they designed them to do so, but because they built them with the patience to let the material lead. Soil is not dumb matter. It is alive in its responses. It is intelligent in its structure. It is generous in its memory. And when shaped with care, as termites have learned to shape it, it becomes an extension of the life it holds. Not just a container for the colony, but a quiet companion to it. The termites do not know this. They do not need to. Their lives are brief. Their minds are simple, but their homes are deep with meaning. And the soil carries that meaning forward long after their tiny legs have stopped moving. It holds the history of their choices. It remembers what worked. And in doing so, it becomes more than earth. It becomes experience. Let us linger now in the oldest layers of the mound. The places no longer touched by the termites who made them, but still shaped by their presence. These are the regions where dust becomes story, where the soil holds not only the structure but the spirit of its history. Here, the walls are smoother, worn not by erosion but by repetition, by the brushing of countless legs, the brushing of soft antennae, the passing of generations. The termites are gone, or perhaps moved to another part of the mound. But the shape remains, the function remains, and the meaning, though unspoken, endures. This is what it means for dust to remember. It is not memory as we know it, no pictures, no names. It is tactile, layered, quiet. It is the way the earth folds slightly in the places most often passed, the way certain tunnels widen where they were used most, the way a chamber that once held warmth still cradles it, even now. No termite recalls this, but the soil does, and that is enough. Over time, even the structure that once buzzed with life becomes still. The outer walls fade into the surrounding landscape. The surface weathers, plants grow. The mound, once rising boldly from the earth, begins to return to it, but the interior remains. The tunnels collapse slowly, some chambers hold, and in these protected hollows life continues, not termites perhaps, but something else. A beetle, a spider, a root. The memory of design becomes habitat again. This is the afterlife of architecture. A structure built for one purpose lives on in another. Its original builders are forgotten, but its usefulness persists. It becomes part of the ecosystem, a source of shelter, a modulator of water, a wrinkle in the earth that redirects what grows, what survives. Termite mounds have been known to alter the chemistry of the soil around them for decades after abandonment. The dust continues to instruct long after the voices are gone. And when new termites come, drawn by the softness of the earth or the shape of old air paths, they may begin again, not from scratch but from what remains. They will dig into old shafts, widen the curves left behind, reinforce what still holds. They do not know they are inheriting a home, but they feel it. The work is easier here. The path opens sooner. The walls respond better. And so they stay. They build again. And the memory of one colony becomes the foundation for another. This is the soil's way of passing knowledge, not with symbols but with structure, not with instruction but with impression. The earth carries forward what works, and life responds by returning. In this way, termite mounds are not monuments. They are manuscripts, not to be read with eyes but with touch, with footfall, with breath. It is easy to think of soil as something beneath us, something lower, passive, background. But in truth, it is the medium through which so much of life emerges. It is alive with unseen motion. It filters, supports, records, and renews. When termites build with it, they are not using a dead thing. They are collaborating with a material that offers its own strengths. That pushes back when pushed too far. That lets itself be molded only when ready. And what termites do, we too can learn from. When we build with the land, not against it, we build something that lasts. When we listen to the materials, how they flex, how they breathe, how they carry heat, we begin to design not just for shelter but for balance. The termites never studied architecture, they never drew a plan, but their mounds stand for decades, often withstanding wind and rain better than our own walls. Why? Because they listen, because they let the dust speak. Perhaps the greatest intelligence is not to impose a vision but to invite one to form. The termites do not shape the soil against its nature, they shape it with it. They take what is loose and make it hold. They take what is shifting and let it settle. Their touch is not forceful. It is rhythmic, patient, soft. And through it, they draw meaning out of material. So now, as we stand at the edge of this long journey, having moved through the towers and tunnels, through the chambers and shafts, through the air, the silence, the breath, the sleep, we end where we began, with soil, with dust, with the softest, oldest, most foundational substance beneath our feet. It has no voice, yet it speaks. It has no eyes, yet it sees. It holds in its fine particles the story of everything that passed above it and invites everything yet to come. The termites are gone. The mound is quiet, but the memory remains, in the curves of the walls, in the texture of the floor, in the pathways that still guide the breeze. The dust has remembered them, and so in a way they are still here, hidden in the shape of shelter, in the breath of earth, in the wisdom of what does not move quickly but endures.